Good morning, friends. This is your old girl, Melanie Rose, here to share your daily aspects. Today is Wednesday, December 29, 2021. The sun is in Capricorn, and as we draw this year to a close, we reflect on what we're letting go of in terms of our old selves. What worked for us in the past isn't always going to work for us in the present or the future. This is especially in terms of any thoughts, attitudes, or expectations that we have found don't really generate for us the growth and uplift that we desire. Our solar cycle, the year, is ending at the same time as our lunar cycle, and I think that's significant. The second day of our new year will also be the culminating day of the new moon, so it's clearly time for us to be done with all the things that no longer work. This applies to stuff, yes. In today's product-rich world, it's important occasionally to get rid of some stuff. It also applies to thoughts, ideas, attitudes, and dispositions that no longer work to give us what we're after, which is in the present and the future, not in the past. In the coming days, we will begin to talk about the work that is ahead, maintaining and growing our empires, making our lives in such a way that we experience optimal joy and peace. But for now, let's focus on the letting go. And speaking of letting go, the moon is in Scorpio all day. This sign is ideal for the waning crescent moon, as we are charged with the task of clearing out the deadwood, that chatter and noise that gets in the way of our ability to gain deep understanding can go too. Okay, let's take a look at these planets and aspects before we get into the interpretations. The legend is here, and I will go over it with you now so that we can start with an idea what energies are in play. As ever, at the top of the list, we have the sun, and the sun represents our outer life. This is who we are when we step out the door, the person that people get to know when they first meet us, and also how we come to engage in our work, social, and civic spheres. After the sun comes the moon, and the moon represents our inner life. This is more about our relationship with ourselves, those things that we think, know, intuit, and also how we come to engage in our domestic sphere. Mercury relates to the intellect, especially our day-to-day thoughts, plans, and communications. Venus is about love and money, or how do you relate to those people and things that you value the most. Uranus comes around and asks us to do things differently, and so often brings around a little bit of change. And Saturn is about the structures that we rely on for support and our responsibility to maintain them. Chiron reflects our healing, the healing that each of us is doing in the world. And Mars is about our personal sense of initiative, that fire under your personal butt that gets you up and going in the morning. Saturn represents, well, we already just talked about Saturn, so we'll get on with it, structures. And then Neptune is about our relationship to the human collective, and Pluto is about the high highs and the low lows of our experience, as well as the death and rebirth, the endings and the beginnings of the story. As for aspect energies, we have a few of them on the page today. Conjunct represents amplification of the two planets involved. And you see the two conjuncts we have today are involving Venus, which is in retrograde. So sextile aspect is really positive vibration. It indicates cooperation between these energies, and cooperation makes things happen. It's a dynamic sort of energy that is likely to create something. Opposition tells us there's a potential for conflict, and square tells us there's a potential for challenges. And trine is a very positive aspect. It suggests that there is harmonious functioning between these planets, and so maybe some harmonious functioning in our own lives as well. Signs of note on the page today are Capricorn, Scorpio, and Capricorn again. And with all of that said, I have divided our aspects into two columns, one for each of our luminaries. The moon sheds light on our inner lives, and it sets the tone for our emotional experience and our domestic relations. The moon moves very quickly, creating many brief aspects that represent ambient energies that may bring up moods, feelings, and intuitions for us throughout the course of the day. The sun sheds light on our outer lives, and I address the rest of the planets on this side because these aspects take longer and they have more to do with our actions and interactions out in the world. We have a lot of aspects today, and we start with the sun in the ongoing column. Venus is in retrograde through January 29. Because Capricorn is heavily involved here, I think the theme of this retrograde has more to do with our work and finances than our love lives. This is a time to reassess our habits for relating to our loved ones and our finances. Venus's conjunct with Pluto put a spotlight down so that we could notice what was not working. And with that understanding, we now have the information we need to choose whether we can reaffirm our commitments. Venus and Pluto have drifted apart now, offering us some relief from the intensity of those high highs and low lows of relating. We will come back to this aspect in March, so let's ask the questions one more time. What have we come to understand about our desires and our ability to attract? Did we notice any manipulative behaviors coming up in our efforts to seek satisfaction? Now is the time to leave behind our old manipulations so we can bring our clear and honest hearts into the new year. The better to begin anew, building our empire. Saturn Square Uranus will be with us. That's today. We're done. Saturn Square Uranus will be with us through January 6th. Saturn rules Capricorn, and Capricorn currently rules the day. So this has been giving us a feeling like we have some pressure or some desire to do things differently when it comes to the people and networks that we rely on. The square energy of this aspect says we will meet some challenges as we move through these changes. A few of us may have felt an urge to force some changes. Instead, I encourage you to remain dedicated to self-review and to make no firm commitments to end anything that we have come to rely on until February 1st, after Venus is out of retrograde. It would actually be like January 30th after Venus is out of retrograde. And that is advice for both of these aspects. No hard endings unless it can't be avoided. Like if you're in a situation where you're being gaslit or you're being treated abusively or nobody is listening to what you have to say, or the people that you rely on are not reliable to you, then create some space, and if you have to make an ending, make an ending. But really, until January 1st, let's not make any firm decisions to walk away from something completely. Otherwise, today at 4:27 a.m., Mercury makes a conjunct with Venus. So Venus and Pluto have been in conjunct. Mercury and Venus are now in conjunct. And tomorrow you're going to see Mercury in conjunct with Pluto, because these guys are all pretty much in the same place in the sky together. If you went out today or this evening and you saw Venus in the sky, you might not see Mercury and Pluto nearby, but they are there, I promise you. And that tends to amplify the effects of everyone involved. They're all in Capricorn right now. This is the time, Mercury conjunct Pluto, for displays of affection. We know when we love someone, what we love about them, and under a conjunct aspect, we may feel practically compelled to tell them how we feel. Venus is in retrograde right now, and this says we're in a phase of reassessing our attachments, perhaps being conservative with our affection. We may wind up having some conversations about things we'd like to see change about our relating. However, let's refrain from seeking to change the person that we love. Just let them know what you love about them. This aspect lasts about 2 days, and it will come around again next September. 2 days. Tell someone you love them. I mean, I hope you won't just, take the 2 days out of each year that Mercury is in conjunct with Venus to tell someone you love them. If you love people, you should tell them about it all the time, every chance you get. But this is a particularly good time because everybody's going to be feeling that vibe where they're a little bit compelled to tell people how they feel about them in a loving way. And then at 4:42, and I did put these right together because they're right together on the timeline. Sun Sextile Moon says that the outer life and the inner life are in a cooperative accord. We know what we want and we know how to get it, and our efforts are likely to generate good outcomes. This aspect also marks the halfway point between the third quarter moon and the new moon coming up this Sunday. So this one takes about 1 day. This is outer and inner cooperation. And cooperation makes things happen. Okay. Then later this afternoon at 5:53, we have the Sun Square Chiron. This aspect indicates the possibility that we will be confronted by someone who doesn't agree with our point of view or the things that we do. So sort of almost an opposite of that Mercury conjunct Venus. Somebody might want to confront us about something they don't like about us. It's important to remember that when another person questions our motivations, we don't necessarily have to defend ourselves. Our experience and our personal sense of dignity are not up for debate. So unless we're being confronted with something that we can see is a real problem in our approach to relating, then it's okay to let others feel the way they feel and go on with ourselves. This aspect lasts about 1 day. Someone who doesn't agree can be allowed to disagree. And notice that the word challenge is in there with the square. Like sometimes when somebody comes to you to tell you about something they really don't like about you, they're making a challenge. They want to, they want to pick a fight or an argument. They want to start some sort of or continue some sort of conflicted way of relating with you. And people who do that, it's basically because conflict is how they know how to relate to people, and you don't have to get into their conflict. You can just say, not dealing with that right now, and save yourself a little bit of trouble, so you don't have to drag this through the rest of the day and into the next with you. And then at 6:22. Mars makes a sextile with Saturn. This aspect lends us some measure of control over how we expend our energy so that we can have the endurance to see our responsibilities through. Mars is a good sign for beginnings. So if we've been thinking about taking on a new responsibility, we're favored with a good outcome. This aspect will last about 4 days. That controlled energy, think of the word endurance. So, we can sort of measure out how much energy we want to give in a minute instead of just putting it all out there up front and then, not being able to see the course. I think that makes sense. New beginnings. Good. As for the moon side of the page, this morning at 9:51 in the morning, the moon makes an opposition with Uranus. Now, this aspect may cause us to feel like stepping out of the box, doing things differently in the heart and home. However, the opposition energy says we may run into some conflict if we do. So communicate and collaborate for a balanced approach. That's a 2-hour aspect. And then at 10:58 in the morning, the moon makes a square with Saturn. See, Uranus and Saturn, Uranus and Saturn. You see how these things are working together. The moon square Saturn. This one may have us feeling a little bit trapped or restricted in the heart or on the home front, and that can be challenging. Again, impulsive behaviors are likely to meet resistance at this time. So that square is really testing us this morning between 9:50 and around 11. So that'll run through till about 1. We'll say about 10 to 1 on that one. And then at 1:51 a.m. the next day, Thursday morning, the moon makes a trine with Neptune. This is a sensitive time where we feel in tune with humanity. It's likely we can feel what's going on in the hearts and minds of the people around us. Creative pursuits are especially blessed at this hour. 2-hour aspect in the middle of the night. Creativity and connection. So the overall lunar energy signature today is likely to bring in some challenges in regards to our routines, especially at home and among our loved ones. Sometimes we just want to break free and do something else, and that's okay. But let's avoid the backlash on impulsive behavior by communicating before we act. Coming up this week, there will be a new moon in Capricorn on Sunday. And we will be encouraged at that time to set intentions for the coming month and the coming year. And we'll talk about these things and more as they arise. That's it for today, friends. This has been your Daily Aspects, an astrological weather forecast for Wednesday, December 29, 2021. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And if you haven't already, please like my video and subscribe to the Old Girl channel. I will leave this up here for a little bit longer so that you may have time to peruse it. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. My name is Melanie Rose, and I will see you back here tomorrow for more Daily Aspects.